All right. Welcome to Blue Pill Podcast. This is Abe, your host. It is October 13th, 2025. I ain't gonna lie, I always get a little nervous on the 13th, like what's gonna happen today. As far as update, got a haircut. Feels better. It was a little wonky yesterday. I did my hair, it was my day off, and I'm like, yeah, I need to cut this shit. So, yesterday after I did the Ian Watkins podcast, me and Sammy went back out. Went to this really cool fucking park in Lexington. It's called Heartland Park. And, little trails, a pond. It's in a rich neighborhood. But, dude, they got like some sort of weird fucking Doppler thing out there. I put out 2 shorts. I took pictures of it and stuff. I don't know what the fuck it was. We passed some dude on the trail and was like, hey, do you know what that thing is? And he's like, I think it has something to do with the weather. So at first I was like, well, maybe it's like something that the weather company owns. But then when we went up to it, it was really weird. There was 2 signs. One that said, no trespassing, this is government property. And then there was one below it that said warning, like an asbestos warning. I was like, that was strange. Came home, took a nap, got a haircut, and honestly just kind of relaxed the rest of the day. But I got up a little early today because woke up to the dog barking and a bunch of noise outside. Apparently, electric company came by and took a bucket in our backyard and was like cutting down some tree that was like interfering with power lines like growing around it and stuff. So that's cool that that's out of the way, you know, because winter's coming. And well, first we got to get through fall, but you know, you don't want it falling on power lines and being without power in the middle of dead of winter, you know. When the snow gets on the trees, it drags them down and they'll snap and break and fall. That's about it for an intro. Got to go to work later today. So, I finished Ghost Rider last night. I almost did another podcast last night, but I had a feeling I was getting towards the end of Ghost Rider. And honestly, I wasn't even planning to do a Ghost Rider to beat the game or play it in October, but it's kind of fitting for the season, really. So instead of doing a podcast, I checked online and I'm like, oh, I'm like right at the end, dude. So I just went ahead, beat it. Got some notes here. So yeah, let's get into it. So first I kind of want to get into like when I got this game as a kid. I'm reviewing obviously the Game Boy Advance version, but it's hard to talk about it without talking about the PlayStation 2 version. Not sure if they put it out for GameCube or Xbox, but I do know for a fact they had a PS2 version because I ended up getting it. So I first got this game like when I was a kid because this game came out like early 2000s. And I remember seeing like I think I checked it out on YouTube of like gameplay, and at the time like I was a huge Ghost Rider fan. Like, I grew up collecting comic books. I'm not like a really big superhero guy as far as like Superman or Captain America, you know, like the classic style. I'm more of like an anti-hero guy. Like I like Hellboy, Constantine, those type of superheroes. So I was immediately attracted to like Ghost Rider, the aesthetic of it, you know. I mean, it's literally a flaming skeleton dressed as a biker on a motorcycle, you know, like, you can't get more badass than that, dude. I've always been interested in, like, the occult, um, paranormal, so, like, you get the best of those worlds tied in with it. So, I checked out the gameplay, and God of War was really big at the time. So, immediately, everyone was like, this game, by the way, did not get good reviews. Like, I don't think they were like horrible reviews, but I think they were giving it like 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10, shit like that. I'd have to look it up. But you guys know me. I'm kind of into weirder types of media. I remember getting comic books as a kid, you know, and I would get like, there was one weird comic book I got one time, like it was the One-Armed Swordsman, and it was a Chinese comic book, and like translated to English. And I remember my dad going like, "Why did you get this? Like, don't you like Superman or Batman?" I'm like, "No, like I like the weirder, more generic, kind of edgier stuff, you know." I'm like that with most media, like as far as movies, music, I don't know. So immediately, like, because I used to watch, like, I'd go over to the Allegronis, who were like an Italian family across the street, and we used to watch their video game. They had a video game channel because they had satellite and stuff. And this game was getting bad reviews. But I went to a local game store and I got it for pretty cheap. And I really wanted it. Like I said, I'd been reading the classic Ghost Rider comics. I remember buying a volume. I only have volume 1, but it was like 3 or 4 volumes of Ghost Rider, and they were like this thick, each one. And it was just like the classics, like literally from his first appearance onward. It's pretty cool. And yeah, I was like, I'm getting this game. So I got it and brought it home, was playing it. Ain't gonna lie, dude, I loved the PS2 version. First of all, the replayability is very high for the PlayStation 2 version because you can unlock characters and get to like replay the game as different characters. Like Vengeance was one. I believe you can play the game as Blade. I think there's like another form of Ghost Rider, like in a different outfit and stuff. Kind of more of like the Danny Ketch Ghost Rider, I believe. Yeah, like it was one of the few games that like this game, Ghost Rider and Dirge of Cerberus, and people are gonna be like, okay, yeah, you're a weirdo, because that was like the black sheep of the Final Fantasies. Yeah, I just kept replaying over and over. I would beat it and literally just start over again. I loved it that much. But so it's basically like a God of War clone. It's a beat 'em up. You use the chain. Some people compared it because it does have elements of like other games like Devil May Cry, as far as like combos and defeating enemies. And if you defeat them in a close enough range within each other, you get a score with a different title, and you go slowly build up the title. Which it's not that hard to do on the PS2 version. The Game Boy Advanced one, it is. So, first of all, the fighting style for the Game Boy Advance one is like basically a side-scroll beat 'em up, kind of like and it's like very, I don't know what the word would be, but you just go straight. You can't move up or down like strafing. So it's not like Golden Axe or something. It would be more just like probably like a Double Dragon, kind of like that. But it does kind of remind me of, honestly, kind of like Castlevania a little bit. Of not the super old Castlevanias, but when Castlevania hit Super Nintendo, you could throw your whip. I believe it was Castlevania 4. You could throw your whip at like different directions, like throw it behind you. Like you could whip in all sorts of directions. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, I found myself struggling to get higher up the score as far as like chains of defeating enemies. Um, so one nice thing is, because I ain't gonna lie, I didn't really like the controls too much. Um, like your B button is punch, your left button is whip, and R1 is jump. So that was kind of annoying. And so I went to the settings immediately after starting the game, and I was like, well, maybe I could change the controls to how I like it. Yeah, you don't get that option. But there is a good thing, though. There's very little platforming because, like, he jumps, like, not that good. When he jumps, it's not that good. But it's not troublesome. They focused more on the fighting rather than platforming. There's like 2 or 3 parts tops where you have to do like platforming, and even then it's not that hard. So it's not that big of an issue, but it would have been nice to be able to change the controls a little bit. So I'm not gonna lie, there's different difficulties, and I do this with every game. I usually start off on the easiest difficulty, and then the next time I replay it, I'll go one step up, you know. So I did play on angelic, and then the next one's like mortal or human or something, and then demonic, and then, yeah. There's like 3 or 4 different difficulties. So I played on the easiest first. I died like, I'd say 2 or 3 times. I think I died like 3 times. And the cool thing about this is I'm a big fan of like RPGs. So you do, while you're fighting or destroying nearby objects around you, orbs will come out. Different color orbs mean different things. Like one is a mana ore, the other is a health ore, and the other is like a EXP orb. So defeating enemies, destroying objects like stuff within the environment around you, you can collect orbs. So when I would die, I would just play the level before the level that I died on and just complete it. And you can go immediately to, like, in the pause menu, you can go immediately to your upgrades, and you can upgrade basically your stats. So your health, you can upgrade how strong your punches are, how strong your whip is. You can upgrade your mana meter. Or you can spend your orbs on like new moves. So like there's all sorts of new combos you can do. So that way you can get better chains, kind of like the Devil May Cry scale that I was talking about, and collect more orbs. So besides the like actual beat 'em up style of the game, there's 2 different styles of the game. So you progress through levels. It's not free roam, and I want to kind of get into that here in a little bit. So as a side scroll, it's expected that it would be more levels, you know, than free roam, obviously. But so you'll do like 1 or 2 fighting levels, and there's more fighting levels than driving levels. I ain't gonna lie, I had a blast doing the driving levels. So the replayability is definitely higher because it's fun to ride around on a fiery motorcycle, and it reminds me kind of like Road Rash. So like if anyone's ever played that classic game, like you know, you're fighting other people, like weaving and like using your whip to like hit people on the left and right of you, demons and stuff. And you can use your brake and fall back and basically like shoot people who are in front of you with like a fireball from the front of your motorcycle. Because if you've ever seen the movie, yeah, the whole front of his bike is like basically like a demon skull with its mouth open, and it shoots fireballs. Pretty dope. So I could definitely I remember as a kid, like, beating the game and unlocking all the motorcycle parts. And I remember, like, wanting to play the game, but not wanting to do the fight sequences, but just kind of replay um, old driving parts. Because, like, sometimes it's nice to just, like, hop on a game and just drive around for a while. So that was very fun. So the replayability is definitely high on this. For one, with the difficulty scale of, like, okay, I beat it in angelic. Let's move up to human mode now. See if I can beat it on that. Or I don't really want to even try to beat the game again. I just want to play the game again. The motorcycle parts, just drive around and have fun for a while. Yeah. But the driving sequences are very... To me, it felt like a roller coaster. It's like very fast paced. Yes, there's different levels. Like the first level, you're breaking out of hell. You're literally driving on like hell's highway. It's actually pretty sick. The music, by the way, during the intro is from the soundtrack. That's the driving music. Ain't gonna lie, it's cheesy, but it kind of slaps a little bit. But it felt to me like you're on a roller coaster track. You can't deviate really off of it. You'll have like stuff obstructing the track to where you have to like slide underneath, which is pretty sick. Weave in and out. You can control how fast your bike goes. Like R1 is the speed of your bike, so you can either just kind of chill the whole time, like, just cruising, or you can go fast, hitting R1. And the sound effects actually, first of all, the volume of the game is like very loud, which is a plus for me. You guys know that's one of my biggest beefs with a lot of video games here recently and in general that I've been playing, is like, I wouldn't say I'm like, I don't know, I got my hearing checked, and I mean it's fine, because I had a factory job for like 3 days a couple years back, and they checked my hearing. I had a physical, and they're like, yeah, your hearing's good, but I don't know, and I don't know if it's just me, but like, there's certain games on the Game Boy Advance, man, and my speakers are fine, that are just quiet as hell, dude. And I think they definitely, first of all, the team that worked on this game, like, put love and care into it. I know that for a fact, because when you play the old PlayStation 2 version, anytime you like beat a level or beat a boss or some form of accomplishment, you can unlock videos, and you can go to the main menu, and there's honestly, it's almost like a full-blown documentary of the making of the Ghost Rider game. And I remember watching it, and like, they actually did put like blood, sweat, love, and tears into this game. And I don't know, I appreciate that. And it kind of sucks too, because it's like, it bums me out a little bit, because watching that documentary and knowing how much the people who were making the game actually cared and loved what they were doing, and then for it to be like such a big flop, it's like, kind of makes you feel bad for them a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if it's free on YouTube. You could probably find it and check it out, the documentary. But yeah. So one thing that did kind of hinder the replayability on this one, and it's to be expected, because their main focus was the PlayStation 2 game. So this is essentially, it's like, as far as story and levels, it's essentially a demake of the PlayStation 2 Ghost Rider. As far as my memory serves me correctly, because like I said, I played it multiple times, like, as a kid. So I mean, but that was when I was a kid, and a lot of things have happened since then, like drugs, head injuries. But as far as my memory serves me correct, like this is like essentially a demake. The biggest thing that would be different, that would deviate from this to the PlayStation 2 version, is the PlayStation 2 version is like a God of War clone. Not really top down, but like at an angle. And this is all side scroll to the side. So that would be the biggest difference. But what I was saying though, is one thing that kind of hinders the replayability is when you beat the game, you can't unlock any characters. And that did kind of bum me out just a little bit, because one of my favorite people to play as was Vengeance, which is like Ghost Rider's rival. He's essentially Ghost Rider, but like bigger and badder, and he looks a little more scarier than Ghost Rider. But yeah, like it would have been cool to play as Vengeance, or I never really liked playing as Blade, just because it was funner to use the chains and shit and to be a demon. But it would have been cool to have that option, you know, to play as Blade or Vengeance, and that was not in this one. So one thing, let's kind of go back to the documentary of the making of. So one thing that I have to say is, first of all, this is a whole different story, because this was made before Ghost Rider 2, the movie, but during, if not after, the first movie. So it's styled and it's in that same universe. So they didn't have licensing for, I'm guessing they didn't have Nicolas Cage's permission. So Mephisto looks exactly like the actor who plays Mephisto in the Ghost Rider movie. But the main Ghost Rider does not look like Nicolas Cage at all. So I'm guessing Nick Cage was like, nah, I'm not letting you use my likeness, you know. But what's cool is, like, this isn't the storyline of Ghost Rider, the movie. It's a completely different story. And it's not the same story as Ghost Rider 2. So it's a brand new story, but set in the same universe. Which is kind of neat. What's his name? Sam Elliott was in it. He was like basically a Ghost Rider from way back in the day. A cowboy. His actual ride is a horse with flaming hooves and flaming eyes. It's pretty sick. But what I was saying about that the company and the crew cared on making this game, they truly did. But they did mention in the behind the scenes stuff that basically, like, they were on time constraints. Like, whatever company, whoever their big bosses were, was like, hey, we got to get this done. So they were putting love and care into creating it, but it's kind of hard to make something the way you want it to be whenever you got a boss hanging over your shoulder like, get it done, I don't care, just get it done, get it out there, we got to sell these units. Ghost Rider the movie just came out, everybody wants Ghost Rider, you know, whatever is the story. But it was pretty cool. They cared a lot about the character design. So they styled it after the movie, but at the same time they said that, hey, we want to make this a very Old West. We want themes of Western, Old West style, which I thought was cool. Because this is more out in the West, like, I'd say, like, there is a couple city levels, and I would say that's probably styled along Vegas or somewhere out west as far as the bigger city. But, like, there's, like, cowboy towns you go through, old cemetery. Yeah, there's an old cathedral at one point, which, I ain't gonna lie, I was talking to my wife, I'm like, can Ghost Rider step foot in a church? Like, because you have to fight Scarecrow, who's one of the villains, you fight one of the bosses, and you go through a cathedral, and I was like, I can't remember, because I I haven't read Ghost Rider since I was a kid, but where he is possessed by Zarathos, I'm like, can he even like step foot in a church? But I don't know. That's just a random little thing that was like bugging me. I'm like, can he do that? So all the character design is more Western style, but they also wanted to do it more modern. So like, if you there's a character Lilith, which is like the literal demon Lilith, you know, who I named my cat after. um, if you look at like the old Lilith from the comic books, like the Spirit of Vengeance series, she had like, for one, like elements of like Victorian era, like a vampire queen, like a tall head with the veils on and fishnets, and they made her younger. They gave her like eyeshadow and stuff, like cool looking eyeshadow, but they took away like the face paint. They kind of like modernized her, made her a little more hip, I guess. So she's kind of like basically like a gothed out chick, like short black skirt, you know, fishnets, more like modern goth style rather than, I don't know, the queen of the night, you know. Yeah. So they definitely had like a more modern look. The music on this game, I definitely, for Game Boy Advanced and non-licensed music, I would give it like definitely like a 9 out of 10. Like, I played the motorcycle music and it fucking slaps. That to me was the only song that really like stuck out to me. But whenever you get into, because they send hordes after you of enemies, and whenever like a horde comes, the music will shift into like more of a heavy metal, new metal, wouldn't say new metal, just kind of like a more metal style music, like, and the volume goes up and it becomes more intense, and I don't know, and it kind of helps while you're playing. It kind of amps you up a little bit, you know. So me and my buddy, who's a big Ghost Rider fan, we were talking though, dude, and I understand the company couldn't have done this, the crew who was making this game. And this goes for the PlayStation 2 more than it would go for the Game Boy Advance, because Game Boy Advance is limited hardware. But dude, I looked at him and I was like thinking about it. I was like, dude, you know what Ghost Rider for PlayStation 2 could have been? A free roaming, like, sandbox style game. Of like, you could have been able to like travel freely and walk around and like call your bike to you and ride around on a bike, almost like a GTA, because Ghost Rider does have like a Hellfire shotgun. I don't know, like, how sick would that have been, like a free roaming Ghost Rider game? And he's like, well, what about during the day when he's not Ghost Rider? And I'm like, then you're Johnny Blaze. I was like, first of all, I've always said this, even on the PlayStation 2 one when I was a kid. I was like, man, the first 1 or 2 levels, you should be Johnny Blaze doing jumps. And they could use it for one as a tutorial of, hey, here's how you ride the bike. But like, play as Johnny Blaze, like at least the first level, you could play as Johnny Blaze in his Evel Knievel outfit. And that's how they could do a tutorial with you, but also tie it in with story. But yeah, even as like a free roam, like a GTA style, they could have had it to where during the day you're Johnny Blaze, and they could still keep the RPG elements, but make it to where like you got to do jumps during the day, because during the day he was like Evel Knievel, like he was going to like Madison Square Garden, like Caesar's Palace, doing jumps and shit. So I was like, they could have still did that. During the day you're doing Evel Knievel shit. And that's how you could earn points to build up your stats. And he was like, dude, you could have even made it one step further of like, you could modify your bike, you know, like make it faster, make it better on turns. I was like, and I understand, like I said, the company was rushed, lack of money probably. But I don't know, somewhere in an alternate universe, there's a free roam GTA style Ghost Rider, and there's a kid in that universe who's like having a blast right now. All right, well, I'll wrap it up there. Overall, I give this game, I give it, I give it a 9 out of 10. It was pretty good. It was fun. The length of it was decent. Took me about a week, but like I said, I have a full-time job. I'm an adult. I give it a 9 out of 10. I had fun. I enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe. I have a Buy Me a Coffee account set up in the link below if you would like to donate to the channel. It'd be helpful. And y'all have a good day.